Ryan's office revenge.
I was watching a kid delete 15 years of my life's work when my phone started buzzing. The conference room at Walsh Manufacturing smelled like burnt coffee and old cigarettes that had soaked into the walls since the 90s. My name's Alan Harper, I'm 48, and I'd been the senior operations engineer at this place since I was 33. That buzzing phone was about to change everything. Dean Walsh stood at the whiteboard with a laser pointer circling my ERP system architecture like he was planning a demolition. Dean was 34, had a shiny MBA from Ohio State, and unfortunately for everyone who actually worked for a living, he was Gary Walsh's son. Gary founded Walsh Manufacturing 25 years ago, built it from a 10-person machine shop into a 500-employee operation making precision parts for the auto industry. 3 weeks ago, Gary made Dean the Chief Technology Officer. Dean's biggest accomplishment so far was using the words synergy, paradigm, and blockchain in the same sentence during his first staff meeting. "Alan," Dean said, pointing that red dot at my safety compliance modules on the big screen, "this is bloated. Too many protocols, too many checks. We need lean code for the Pinnacle acquisition." The room went quiet. My team, Carl, the junior engineer I'd trained from scratch, Joel, our systems admin who'd been here since Clinton was president, and Amy from quality assurance, they all stared at their coffee cups. They knew those modules weren't bloat. Those modules kept our factory floor workers safe and kept OSHA inspectors from shutting us down. They were the reason we could run 3 shifts without someone getting hurt every time a machine threw a fault. "It's not bloat, Dean," I said, keeping my voice level. "Those are the compliance protocols. They talk to the machine monitoring systems and automatically shut things down when parameters go out of range. You remove them, we lose EPA and OSHA compliance." Dean laughed. It was that wet sound rich kids make when they think they know better than people who actually do the work. "Alan, you're stuck in the past. My dad's getting $75 million from Pinnacle Industries for this company because of our efficiency. They want streamlined operations, not your complicated safety theater." He walked over to the computer terminal that was mirrored on the big screen. My stomach dropped. He had admin access. I'd told Gary 3 weeks ago that giving Dean admin access was like handing a loaded gun to a toddler, but Gary just said Dean needed to feel empowered. "Dean," I said, standing up, "don't touch the production database. Those safety modules are connected to everything. You delete them, the whole system goes down. I'm cleaning house," he said, like he was announcing lunch specials. "We're going lean." He highlighted the entire safety net directory. 15 years of work. Code I'd written after watching good people get hurt because some manager wanted to save 5 minutes on a shift change. Protocols that had prevented 3 potential explosions and more injuries than I could count. "Dean, if you delete that, the monitoring system can't talk to the shutdown relays. The EPA certification depends on those environmental checks running every 15 minutes. You worry too much, Alan. That's your problem. You're always finding reasons why things can't be done." Then he did it. Click. Delete, commit, push. The screen flickered. Green text scrolled for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. Done. The silence that followed was complete. Carl looked like he was about to throw up. Joel was already reaching for his phone, probably to call his wife and tell her to dust off her resume. "You just deleted 15 years of safety protocols," I said, sitting back down. I felt strangely calm, like watching a car accident happen in slow motion. The production line monitoring can't function without those modules. First time a machine runs hot or someone misses a safety check, the whole line shuts down. And since you left auto deploy enabled, this hits production in about 20 minutes. Dean turned around, his face getting red. "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, negativity. You're toxic, Alan. You're not a culture fit for the new Walsh Manufacturing." He puffed out his chest like a rooster. "You're fired. Clear out your desk before 5 p.m. The room gasped. Carl actually stood up. "Dean, you can't just sit down, Carl, or you're next." I looked at Dean. I looked at the screen where my code used to be. I looked at my team, who looked terrified. Then my phone buzzed again. It had been buzzing for weeks, a number I didn't recognize. I'd been ignoring it because I was loyal to Gary, the guy who gave me a shot 25 years ago when I was fresh out of community college with a 2-year degree and calloused hands. I picked up the phone. The caller ID said, Pinnacle Industries. Dean was still talking, going on about fresh perspectives and right-sizing the workforce. He thought he'd won. He was waiting for me to beg, to promise I'd be a team player, maybe offer to work weekends for free. I swiped to answer. "This is Alan." The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. "Eric Stone, VP of Engineering at Pinnacle Industries, the very company that was supposed to buy Walsh for $75 million next month." "Alan, we haven't heard back about our offer. We're doing final due diligence on Walsh tomorrow. Honestly, looking at their operation from the outside, you're the only reason we're still interested. Everything else looks like an accident waiting to happen." I looked at Dean. He was smirking, arms crossed, probably thinking he was about to watch me grovel. "Yes," I said into the phone, loud enough for everyone in that conference room to hear. "I accept Pinnacle's offer." Dean's smirk disappeared faster than free donuts in a break room. "Who is that?" "I can start immediately," I continued, ignoring Dean completely. My schedule just cleared up unexpectedly. "Oh," Eric said on the other end. "That's fast. Everything okay there?" "Everything's perfect," I said, staring right at Dean. "I'll see you in an hour." I hung up. I closed my laptop. I stood up and unplugged my charger. The cord made that familiar whirring sound as it retracted, and it was the loudest noise in the room. "Good luck with your lean operations, Dean," I said. I walked toward the door. I didn't look back at the screen. I didn't look at my team, though I could feel their eyes on me. I walked out of that conference room for the last time, my work boots making more noise on the concrete floor than they ever had before. Dean shouted something after me about security escorts and company property, but I barely heard him. I was already doing the math in my head. The safety net modules handled all the environmental monitoring. Without them, the EPA compliance system would start throwing errors within an hour. The production line would shut down when the first safety check timed out. And since Dean had admin access but couldn't tell a database from a doorknob, he'd probably make it 10 times worse trying to fix it. The walk from the conference room to my desk was maybe 100 feet, but it felt like crossing state lines. The factory floor was humming with afternoon shift energy. Guys were running parts, the overhead cranes were moving steel around, and the air smelled like cutting oil and hot metal. None of them knew the company was already dead. They were working hard on something that was about to collapse. I reached my desk, a metal setup with 2 monitors that had seen better days, a keyboard I'd brought from home because the company ones were junk, and a coffee mug Helen gave me for my 45th birthday that said "World's Okayest Engineer." I grabbed a cardboard box from the supply closet. I didn't take much. My personal tools, my safety glasses that actually fit, a photo of Helen and the kids at last year's Browns game where we got soaked but had a great time anyway. I left the company jacket hanging on my chair. I left the 15-year service plaque they'd given me last month, cheap plastic that was already cracking. "Alan." I turned around. It was Joel, our systems administrator. Joel looked like he'd lived his whole life in server rooms, pale as milk, always caffeinated, wearing a t-shirt that said, "There's no place like 127.0.0.1. He was the only other person in the building who really understood how everything connected together. "Is it true?" he whispered, looking over his shoulder toward the glass conference room where Dean was still waving his arms around. "Did he actually delete SafetyNet?" "He used the point-and-click interface," I said, dropping my multimeter into the box. "Thought he was cleaning up messy code." Joel's face went white as his t-shirt. "But Alan, the production monitoring system, the environmental sensors, they all depend on those modules for data processing. If that's gone, the safety interlocks will start failing." I glanced at my watch. "About 15 minutes from now." "Then the automated shutdown protocols kick in," Joel said, looking sick. "The whole production line stops, and when management tries to override the safety systems manually, OSHA gets an automatic notification," I finished, "plus the EPA, since the environmental monitoring will be offline." Joel looked like he'd just watched someone drive off a cliff. "I have to stop this before it gets worse." "Don't," I said. My voice was sharp enough that he actually stepped back. "He fired me for obstruction, Joel. You try to fix this now, you're undermining the new CTO's vision, and you've got twins starting college next year." Joel swallowed hard. He looked at the big status board on the wall, all green lights showing normal operations. For now. "So we just watch it burn?" "It's already burning, Joel. We just can't see the flames yet." I picked up my box. "Do me a favor. When it all goes sideways, remember you were taking a long bathroom break." Joel nodded slowly. I didn't see anything. I walked toward the elevator bank. The factory still felt normal, but it was like being in a house where someone had left the gas on. Everything looked fine until suddenly it wasn't. I passed the production manager giving a pep talk to his shift supervisors about exceeding quota targets. I almost felt bad for the guy. That bonus he was counting on wasn't going to happen. The elevator took forever to arrive. While I waited, my phone buzzed with a text message from Carl. Production line just threw its first fault code. Dean's yelling at the computer screen. I didn't reply. I just deleted the message. The elevator doors finally opened. I stepped in and hit the button for the ground floor. As the doors started closing, I saw Dean storming out of the conference room carrying his laptop like it was a life preserver. He was scanning the factory floor, probably looking for me, probably looking for anyone who could fix what he'd broken. Our eyes met through that shrinking gap between the elevator doors. I didn't smile. I didn't give him a little wave goodbye. I just stood there, holding my box of personal stuff, watching him figure out that he was completely alone. The doors closed with a solid thunk. I walked out of Walsh Manufacturing and into the Cleveland afternoon. It was drizzling, that fine mist that makes everything look gray, but the air was clean. It smelled like rain and car exhaust instead of cutting oil and panic. I took a deep breath for what felt like the first time in hours. I called an Uber. Pinnacle Industries downtown, I told the driver when he pulled up. The big glass building? That's the one. I leaned back against the Uber's worn seats and watched Cleveland roll by through the rain-streaked window. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Your Walsh Manufacturing network access has been revoked. I smiled. Dean was quick with the panic buttons when he needed to be, but he was about 30 minutes too late. I wasn't just a disgruntled ex-employee anymore. I was heading to meet the competition. Pinnacle Industries had real architecture, not just a factory with some offices stuck on the side. The lobby was all glass and steel, with a reception desk that probably cost more than my F-150. The whole place said we actually know what we're doing in a way that Walsh never quite managed. Alan Harper for Eric Stone, I told the woman at the front desk. She didn't check a list or ask for ID. He's expecting you, 15th floor. The elevator was smooth and quiet. My ears popped when we hit the 15th floor and the doors opened. Eric Stone was waiting for me in the hallway, mid-50s, wearing dark jeans and a sweater instead of a suit. He had the look of a guy who'd spent time on actual factory floors before he started running companies. Alan, he said, shaking my hand with a grip that meant business. I didn't expect you to be available quite so quickly. I believe in efficient operations, I said. My previous situation developed some unexpected complications. He laughed and gestured toward a seating area that overlooked the Cuyahoga River. Through the big windows, I could see the steel mills downriver still putting out smoke. Coffee? Black, thanks. We sat down and I put my cardboard box on the floor next to my chair. Eric got right to the point, which I appreciated. Look, Alan, let's skip the corporate dance. We've been looking at Walsh Manufacturing for 8 months. The financial numbers look solid, they've got good client relationships, but every time our technical team digs into their actual operations, we find problems. Old systems held together with digital duct tape, safety protocols that should have been updated years ago, compliance issues that could blow up any time. He leaned forward. But their safety record is spotless. Their EPA compliance has never had a violation. Their production efficiency numbers are the best in the region. That was all you, wasn't it? Me and my team, I said. But yeah, mostly the systems I built over the last 15 years. And now you're here, Eric said, free to start immediately. Dean Walsh decided to modernize our compliance systems this afternoon, I said, taking a sip of the coffee that had appeared on the table. It was actually good coffee, not the burnt stuff we had at Walsh. He deleted the safety net protocols about 90 minutes ago, called them bloated legacy code. Eric's eyebrows went up. He deleted your safety monitoring systems? Gone. And he fired me for trying to stop him. I set my coffee down. So if you go through with that acquisition tomorrow, you'll be buying a factory with no safety compliance, no environmental monitoring, and probably 50 different OSHA violations piling up as we speak. Eric didn't look shocked or upset. He looked like a guy who just realized the poker game had gotten a lot more interesting. So if we walked away from Walsh, we'd need someone who could build those systems from scratch. Someone who knows how to do it right the first time. I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture of my old monitoring dashboard. This is what I built at Walsh. But if I did it again, I'd do it better. No compromises for legacy hardware, no quick fixes to make the quarterly numbers look good. Clean slate. Eric pushed a tablet across the table. This is what we really want to build." I looked at the screen. It was a blueprint for an integrated manufacturing platform, real-time monitoring, predictive maintenance, full environmental controls, the works. Everything I dreamed about building if I ever had the budget and the backing. "You want me to design this? I want you to be our director of manufacturing operations," Eric said. 3 times your Walsh salary, equity stake, and your choice of team members. He paused. "And absolutely no founder's kids anywhere in the management structure." I looked at that schematic again. I could already see the code in my head. I could see exactly how I'd build it right this time. "What happens to the Walsh deal?" Eric smiled. "We've got an out clause in our letter of intent. Material adverse change in operations during the due diligence period, if their manufacturing capability gets significantly compromised." He shrugged. "Well, that would certainly qualify." I thought about the red warning lights that were probably flashing all over Joel's monitoring screens right about now. "Eric, I'd say their manufacturing capability is about to become non-existent. Then we walk away from Walsh and build something better with the person who actually knows how to do it. I had one condition. When this all settles down, I want to hire 3 people. Carl from engineering, Joel from systems, and Amy from quality assurance. Done." He stood up and extended his hand. "Welcome to Pinnacle, Alan." As we shook hands, my phone vibrated. A text from Amy. "Production line completely down. EPA sent automatic violation notice." Dean's locked himself in Gary's office. "OSHA inspection team arriving tomorrow morning." I didn't text back. For the first time in 15 years, someone else's emergency wasn't my problem to solve. The first week at Pinnacle was like stepping out of a noisy bar into a quiet library. Nobody was yelling. Nobody was throwing around business school buzzwords they didn't understand. The meetings were short and actually accomplished things. People asked technical questions and listened to the answers. I sat in my new office, an actual office with a door that closed, designing the manufacturing platform we were going to build. Modern infrastructure, proper architecture, systems that were designed to work instead of just limping along until the next crisis. My phone kept me updated on the disaster across town. Joel and Carl couldn't communicate directly, company policy, during the restructuring, but Amy was sending regular updates. Tuesday, EPA inspection found 17 separate violations. Production shut down indefinitely. Gary's been in meetings with lawyers all day. Wednesday, Dean tried to restore from backup files. Turns out he canceled the backup service 2 months ago to cut costs. Joel hasn't slept in 48 hours trying to rebuild everything from scratch. Thursday, the Pinnacle inspection team was here asking questions. Gary told them you were terminated for performance issues. They didn't seem to buy it. Friday brought the message I'd been waiting for. Amy's text was short and sweet. "It's over. Pinnacle pulled out of the deal. $75 million gone. Gary fired Dean an hour ago. Bankruptcy lawyers coming Monday." I leaned back in my new ergonomic chair and looked out at Lake Erie stretching to the horizon. Clean office, quiet environment, challenging work that people actually wanted me to do right the first time. I wasn't spending my days putting out fires anymore. 6 months later, Walsh Manufacturing was a memory. The factory got sold at auction to a scrap dealer. The equipment went to other shops around Ohio. Gary lost everything. The business his grandfather started, his house in Shaker Heights, his reputation in Cleveland's tight-knit manufacturing community. Word travels fast in our business, and everyone knew what happened. Dean disappeared after the bankruptcy. Last I heard, he was in Columbus trying to break into the tech startup scene, probably telling people he was a digital transformation consultant or some other meaningless title. My new team at Pinnacle was crushing every target Eric set for us. Carl turned out to be brilliant when he wasn't terrified of breaking something or getting yelled at. Joel built server systems that actually worked the first time and didn't need constant babysitting. Amy designed quality control processes that caught problems before they became disasters. We picked up most of Walsh's old client contracts. Their customers needed parts, not excuses, and we could deliver on time without the drama. The manufacturing platform I designed was handling twice the production volume Walsh ever managed, with 0 safety incidents and perfect compliance scores. Eric called me into his office on a Friday afternoon in late fall. "The board is thrilled with what you've built," he said. "They want to expand into aerospace contracts next year." Through his windows, I could see the lake turning gray under winter clouds. Helen was happy with the new job, Better pay, actual benefits, and college tuition payments that didn't keep us awake at night. The kids were proud that their dad worked for a company that knew what it was doing. Sounds like a good challenge, I said. That evening, I got a notification on my phone. Someone had viewed my LinkedIn profile. Dean Walsh, now listing himself as Chief Innovation Officer at something called Synergy Solutions, LLC. Probably a one-man consulting operation working out of a coffee shop. I didn't view his profile back. I didn't need to see what he was up to. I had work to do. The real satisfaction came 3 months later. I was in my office reviewing production reports when my assistant knocked on the door. "There's someone here to see you," says he's from Walsh Manufacturing. I looked up, confused. Walsh went out of business 8 months ago. He says his name is Gary Walsh. I told her to send him in. Gary looked like he'd aged 10 years and 8 months. His hair had gone completely gray and his expensive suit had been replaced with a cheap sport coat that didn't fit right. "Alan," he said, standing in my doorway like he wasn't sure he was welcome. "Gary." I didn't stand up. "What can I do for you?" "I wanted to apologize," he said. "For Dean. For what happened. I should have listened to you." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Sit down if you want." He sat. "I know it doesn't matter now, but I need you to know. Those safety protocols Dean deleted, they weren't bloated, were they?" "No, Gary, no. They weren't. I let him destroy everything you built. Everything we built together. I looked at this man who'd given me my first real shot 25 years ago, who'd trusted me to build something important, who'd then let his kid tear it all down in an afternoon. Gary, you didn't just let Dean delete my code. You let him delete your future, and your workers' jobs, and 25 years of your father's legacy." Gary nodded. He looked like he might cry. "The insurance company won't cover the EPA fines because they ruled it was intentional negligence. I lost the house last month. Susan left me in July. I felt sorry for him, but not sorry enough to pretend this was some kind of accident. You chose Dean over everyone who actually knew how to do the work." "I know." His voice was barely a whisper. "I was hoping. I know you can't forgive me, but I was hoping you might hire some of the old crew. Mike from the machine shop, Rodriguez from quality control, some of the line supervisors. They're good people, Alan. They didn't deserve what happened." I thought about it. We were expanding operations, and good manufacturing people were hard to find. "Send me their resumes. I'll take a look." Gary stood up. "Thank you." "Gary," I said as he reached the door, "next time you're thinking about putting family ahead of competence, remember what it cost you." He nodded and left. That night, I drove home through the Cleveland suburbs thinking about choices and consequences. I'd spent 15 years building something that mattered, something that kept people safe and productive. Dean had destroyed it in 10 minutes because he thought he knew better than the people who actually did the work. But here's the thing about good engineering. You can't fake it for very long. Eventually, the system either works or it doesn't. Eventually, reality shows up and demands an accounting. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck for a minute, looking at my house with the lights on in the kitchen where Helen was probably making dinner. Inside, my kids were doing homework, maybe watching TV, living normal lives, because their dad had a job that paid well and didn't keep him up at night wondering if everything was about to collapse. Dean had tried to delete 15 years of my work in 10 seconds. What he actually deleted was his own future. Sometimes the best revenge is just being better at your job than the guy who thought he could replace you. I got out of the truck and walked toward my front door, where my real life was waiting for me. In the end, you can't delete competence. You can only delete your own credibility. The best revenge against incompetence isn't anger, it's simply being better at what you do.